So I ordered a pair of awesome pink pants online. I followed the size chart. I got them, I tried them on, and they are like way too big in the waist. They're like inches big in the waist. They fit good in the hips and the butt though. So instead of taking all the time to return them, get a new pair, and maybe they're gonna be too small if I go down a size, I'm gonna show you how to take in the waist of a pair of pants today. And the techniques I'm going over today are for a regular old pair of pants. Now, if you've got jeans, that's a different technique. If you've got a pair of dress slacks, that's a different technique as well. And I've got videos on both of those, so make sure you check out the links down below if you need to take in a pair of slacks or jeans. But if you need to take in just a regular old pair of pants, well, you've come to the right place. So let's get started. And how do you know if you just have a regular pair of pants? Well, you're gonna have a seam up the back and you're gonna have a rectangle waistband. The first thing we need to do is try on these pants and figure out how much we need to take in. So here they are. Loving these hot pink pants. I love that they're high-waisted, but check this out. We have got a giant gap here, and that's not good. So what we need to do is take these in. To take these pants in, we're gonna take them in the back. So what we need to do is pull all the excess to the back. You need to grab it as tight as you want, and you need to put some pins in it. Now this is gonna be hard to do on yourself, so you're gonna wanna grab a friend and do this. And if you don't have a friend with you, try the best you can by yourself. So I pinned up the back of the pants and I can see exactly how much I need to take in. As you can see, it is quite a bit. You might be wondering, if I'm just taking in the waist, why do I have all of these pins? Well, when we take in the waist, we have to blend it back into the seat of the pants. And depending on how they fit you, this amount here could be more, it could be less, it could be longer, it could be shorter. But for me, this felt comfortable pinned on. Basically, you want to follow the shape of your butt, also known as your seat. And one tip for when you're pinning is to make sure you're pulling your fabric evenly. Make sure it's not crooked when you're pinning it, otherwise it's going to be a little harder to work with later. Now you're going to flip your pants inside out and we're going to mark where the pins are. Now that we have them inside out, you want to pull apart the back of the seam so you can see where the fabric's coming together with the pins on the other side. And what we want to do is take our chalk and we're going to mark on both sides. So one here, one there. Go ahead and just run your chalk down the center, making sure that you're marking both sides. Just kind of pull it apart. Okay, you can really see it up here in the waistband, so we want to make sure we're marking both sides. Okay, and now that we have these pieces marked, what we need to do is take the pins out from the other side. Now it's time to take out the pins. After you take out the pins, take the pants and flip them inside out again. And then you'll have your chalk lines on the inside of the pants, and this here is going to be your new sewing line. So now what you want to do is grab your ruler and your chalk pen, and now we're going to blend this line into the seam, making it nice and straight, because you know, maybe you pinned a little crooked. So I'm going to start all the way up here at the top, and I'm just going to draw and blend right into the existing seat seam here. So this here is going to be my new sewing line. And because we want it symmetrical on both sides, we only need to mark one side. Now that we know exactly how much we need to take it in, we need to remove the waistband from the bottom of the pants. So grab your seam ripper and let's remove some stitches. But make sure you don't remove your whole waistband. We just need to remove it in the spot that we need to take it in. So right now we're going to remove the seam on the bottom of the waistband, and if you have one on the top, we're going to remove it on the top of the waistband. Now it looks like I've got about 3 inches in here to take in, so we want to go about 1 inch past that on both sides, so that way it's nice and easy to work with. So we're going to remove both of these seams here, and it looks like I have a chain stitch, so hopefully we can get this started and just kind of pull it right out. Okay, all done seam ripping. So now that I have the facing on the waistband separated from the outside of the waistband, this belt loop here is going to pop right off, nice and easy. And so now we've got everything here separated that we need to work with it. So the first sewing step is going to be taking in the waistband pieces. And this waistband had no seam up center back. So we are going to make a seam right at center back. And because there was no seam allowances already there. So we're going to draw in our seam allowances. So I'm going to draw inwards from my line that I want to sew on a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be using 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've got one on this side, and now I also need to draw it in on the other side. There we go. And because my waistband is the same bottom and top, I can go ahead and cut through both layers right here at the cut line. So the inside line is the cut line and the outside line is the sew line. So now it's time to cut into the waistband. So make sure you separate the waistbands so that way they're not stuck to your pants still, so you don't cut through the bottom of your pants. And what we want to do is make sure that we're cutting on the cut line here. So we're going to cut through both layers of the waistband at the same time. So go ahead and cut through. Okay, now we're going to do the other side with the cut line. Make sure it's nice and flat. There we go. So we are getting rid of that chunk permanently, and then the other 1/2 inch on both sides is also going to get taken in because that's our seam allowance. So our sew line is that outside line. In order to sew these two pieces together, you need to open up the flap of fabric, the seam allowance that's hidden in there. So go ahead and open up any fabric that you have in there, lay it completely flat, and then we're going to face it right sides together and sew it up at a 1/2 inch. Now we're sewing together the center back seam of the facing of the waistband. Don't forget the back stitch. Make sure you take out your pins before you get to them. Work your way all the way down the seam. If you need to straighten it out, stop, straighten it out. This can be pretty tricky working in a small space. Don't forget to back stitch at the bottom and cut. So you can see how we have a seam right here where those blue chalk lines are, right where I wanted to sew it up. So now we need to sew together the outside of the waistband. So we've got that flap of fabric here. So go ahead, open up the flaps of fabric that are folded in, and then we want to place the fabric right sides together and sew it up at a 1/2 inch. To get these right sides together, I'm going to flip the pants inside out. And now what I need to do is go ahead and just pop out that waistband. And just make sure that you're facing the right sides of the waistband together. So you can see we've got our two waistband pieces here, and we are going to pin these together. And then don't forget to open up that seam allowance that's folded in. So you gotta open that up. That's real important that you open that up. Okay, so now we have our waistband right sides together, and we're gonna sew this up a 1/2 inch. Don't forget the back stitch at the beginning. Work your way all the way down. Back stitch at the bottom and cut. We are getting close to finish. Now it's time to sew up the seat of the pants or the butt of the pants. So now we're going to sew right over that line that we drew earlier that blends right into that center back seat seam. And you want to make sure that your fabric is nice and flat so that way we're taking this in symmetrically on both sides. I'm starting at the top waist. Make sure I'm back stitching to secure it, making sure I take out my pins before I get to them, and just keeping everything nice and flat. And we're going to follow that chalk line that we drew earlier. And it's so important that when you end, you're ending in the existing stitch or seam allowance, back stitch, and cut. So you can see that we stitched from the waist all the way down into the existing seam. So we blended right in. That's going to be real important that that's super smooth right there so we don't end up with any bubbles or puckers on our butt. That would not look good. And what you want to do next is try these on. Make sure you took them in enough. Make sure you didn't take them in too much before you cut off any fabric. Try them on. So you might want to leave this extra trunk in here if you think you're going to want to go back and let out your pants at some point, or you can go ahead, cut off the extra and finish up your seam. It looks so great in the back. Everything is really coming together. Our last step is going to be sewing the top of the waistband and the bottom of the waistband, making sure we're catching the pants in the bottom of the waistband. And I had 3 belt loops back here, but we took it in so much that I'm not going to put back that 3rd belt loop. The first step for the waistband is sewing together at the top of it. So go ahead and fold back under your seam allowance, line everything up real nice. We're going to give it a top stitch here right through all of the layers. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. So I'm starting in the existing top stitch, keeping all the layers lined up perfectly and working my way down. Back stitching at the end and cut. So we've got our top stitch holding all of the layers here together. Our belt loops are nice and secure, and our top waistband is nice and secure as well. Now to sew the bottom of the waistband, make sure your seam allowance is folded under. Also make sure the new seam that you created is ironed open and then down. Make sure your belt loops are tucked in. If you have any stitching here, make sure it's going to be covering that. And then flip it around to the inside. And if you've got an extra flap of fabric here, you can trim some of that off. Or if you want to leave it, just make sure you fold it over to the side, tuck it in, tuck under your seam allowance on the facing as well. Also make sure this is open, flat, and then up and under. And then we're going to sandwich all of these layers together and then just do that top stitch right across the bottom. Don't forget the back stitch at the beginning. Make sure everything is tucked under nice. Back stitch at the end and cut. We did it. See, that wasn't so bad now, was it? Look, you can't even tell what we did, and now the pants are gonna fit so much better. Here they are. I can now put my hands in my pockets and the pants don't fall down on me, and they fit me so nice in the waist. I love it. Remember how big those pants were before? Well, now they fit so much better. Not too big, not too small, just right. The back top of my pants and my tush fit great. Thanks so much for watching Sew Anastasia today. I hope you enjoyed learning how to take in the back of the pants at the waistband and the seat. If you have any questions about it, leave it down below in the comments and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. And I would love to know what videos you would like to see next, so leave those down below in the comments as well. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up today. And if you're not already a subscriber to Sew Anastasia, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you. And if you're in Chicago, come on in to the design studio and take a class with me. You can see those at sewanastasia.com. And we're starting up that online academy, so make sure you check that out on the website too. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.